Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer. You know, one day I want to be a millionaire, just like my father.
Your father was a millionaire?
No, he wanted to be a millionaire too. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and check out The Last of Us Escape the Dark from Naughty Dog and Themeborne. The Last of Us Escape the Dark from Naughty Dog and Themeborne is an adventure game in which players take on the roles of the various characters from the video game and the TV show as they attempt to navigate through a post apocalyptic world and hopefully survive. Now, this is a cooperative game for 1 to 5 players. I'm not going to get too much into the weeds of this game. I'm just going to tell you some of the basic ideas and concepts and then tell you what I think. Now, each player will choose a character board. These characters, of course, are based on the video game and the TV show, and they have areas for items that you're going to carry. You will also have a kind of a character flaw, and this character flaw has ways you can overcome it. If you complete 3 specific sets, you can overcome that character flaw and kind of gain some advantages in the game. You're also going to have various stats for that character, and as I say, you will have some starting items. Essentially, the game board contains spaces for various locations and tracks leading from those locations to other locations. You kind of start in the quarantine zone. You can kind of choose to go left or to go right. You can split up. You can stay together. And what you're going to do is you're going to go to these various locations. Now, each of these locations have various cards, and you're going to be playing through them in order to clear that location. Now, you're going to have some starting equipment, guns, or other kinds of weapons. And when you go to these different locations, different things are going to happen as you draw these different cards. Now, above them, they have kind of threat markers, threat tokens, and you've got to kind of clear them in order to get through, in order to advance. So you're going to these locations and you are engaging with the card. Now, some of them will just kind of be very basic cards. Some of them have kind of bigger stories. Some of them will have monsters or other threats that you have to overcome. Sometimes when you're at these locations, you're going to, as I say, face enemies or monsters or other threats. And you're going to have a number of chapter dice that you're going to roll for that specific threat. You're going to go ahead and roll those dice. And these dice, we're going to have very specific symbols on them. Now, you essentially, when you roll, you're going to be rolling either kind of the symbols to match them to take them out, or hits on, like your gun. If they score a hit, you can go ahead and match that with certain dice and go ahead and take them out. But that's essentially what you're doing, is you're trying to roll dice to kind of match the dice that have been rolled for that specific threat, and that's kind of how you get through these things. But you're not always going to be able to get through it straightforward. There may be consequences if you fail. And again, you've got these various weapons or items that may help you succeed in clearing those locations. Now, instead of just going to the locations, they also have the campsites next to them, and you can camp. Now, typically, you can either camp once or twice at these sites, and they are going to give you things. They may restore health or do other good and funky things to help keep you going. Now, when you clear a location, typically there's going to be some kind of reward. Usually you get some bonus actions that the players can share amongst them. You can search the decks. You can gain intel by actually looking at decks associated with the card decks that are associated with the other locations, because there may be traps in those things. You can search a card deck at your location and hopefully gain more items that you can use. Now, the whole thing plays out in a series of days. You have kind of a time tracker, and the time tracker is advancing. Eventually, it's going to hit threat marks, and different things you can do will either advance the time track or cause you to move to the threat locations, in which case you're going to be advancing threat markers throughout the board. Now, you can also take a number of kind of preparation actions. You can trade items. You can upgrade like melee cards. You can craft items. You can reload weapons. There's a lot of different things you can do to get ready for the next card and the next location that you're going to. Now, as you're going through the cards, there's also possibilities here of kind of sneaking around or making sneak attacks. You've got kind of survivor dice, which have, of course, those same symbols you're trying to match with the threats and what have you. So there's kind of, again, different ways that you can attack or engage with these locations. Now, as you're moving to, some things may trigger kind of boss tokens that are going to place near the boss at the top of the board, which means when you finally get to face him, he's going to be a more difficult challenge. But what you're doing is you're moving toward that final showdown in Jackson and engaging the boss there. Now, the game is going to end in a few ways. First of all, if any one survivor, if their health gets all the way down to 0, that's it, you lose the game. If ever you you fill up the boss tokens in Jackson, if you fill up his thing completely, then again, you lose the game. If the time track gets all the way to the end and you haven't won, you lose the game. Otherwise, if the heroes make it to the final boss at Jackson, they defeat that final boss collectively, then they win. The Last of Us: Escape the Dark.
We'll get back to the review in just a moment. I want to take a minute to ask you to check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about history, books on history, military history. I even post some of my lectures for my classes on there. Please check that out. Please subscribe to that channel. And now, back to the review.
So that's just a bare bones overview of the game. There's a lot more going on here. I would recommend watching a how to play video if you want to get more of the in-depth rules there. But having said that, I want to start with a couple of things. First of all, I am not familiar with this IP really at all. I've not played the video game. I've heard it's excellent. Heard the first one was excellent. I heard the second one wasn't that good, but I don't know. I haven't played them. I heard the TV show was excellent. I haven't seen it. Maybe that's one I'll watch here at some point. But I'm not familiar with the IP, so it may mean something completely different to somebody who really knows these characters and what have you. Second thing I want to talk about is the aesthetic of the game. It's black and white, and I got to tell you, that really caught my eye. I thought it was beautiful. I love the aesthetic here. I think the artwork's good, but it's the black and white that makes this game pop on the tabletop. It's a very unusual choice. I haven't seen many big board games like this that were just in black and white with very little color. And I thought it just did an outstanding job. They knocked it out of the park as far as the aesthetic went. I was really happy with that. Now, the game itself, it's a cooperative game. I like cooperative games. And I like working together, and I like the ways in which you're forced to negotiate with your teammates about who's got what weapon, which way we should go, what we should do. Should we stay together? Should we go apart? There's some good choices there that I really enjoy. The game is very punishing. It's a very difficult game when you're at the locations and you're trying to get through, and you finally bust through, but then something triggers, a calendar triggers, and then boom, you got to go back there again. It can be frustrating. It can be a little repetitive. I don't mind a cooperative game that's really punishing, as long as there's some variety and you can still feel like maybe you're making progress on some level or doing something fun on some level. And I kind of felt like here it felt like you're kind of at the same place. You're hitting your head, and then there's that point where you realize, well, even if I can get through everything else scot-free, how can I win? And that can come pretty early in this game. So I'm not a huge fan of that aspect of the game here. The combat system here is very unusual, and it's got, you're rolling the chapter dice, and then you've got your survivor dice. You're kind of trying to match them and take them out, but then you're also you've got the guns and stuff, limited ammunition, and you're trying to take out the various dice. It's unusual. It's interesting in that I've never seen anything quite like this before. I think Ray was telling me it was similar to another game, how that worked, but I don't know that I've played anything that was quite like it. And honestly, I don't know, it didn't click with me. It wasn't deterministic, obviously, because there were dice rolls and there was chance, and yet it just felt. I almost got the same vibe from a deterministic combat system. It failed to, I guess, click with me thematically, and again, maybe if I was a bigger fan of the show, that would work for me. But as it was, the combat for me kind of fell flat. I think the ways you search in this game, and you can look at locations on other parts of the board, with a reward. That's cool because again, there's the traps that can really screw you up. So I thought that was interesting as well. I guess what I'm getting at here is, for me, The Last of Us was kind of a mixed bag. There was stuff in it I really liked, and there's other stuff that just didn't connect. Now, again, in fairness, maybe a lot of that stuff would have connected if I had a stronger feeling with the IP, because I know if you are invested in an IP, things click in a way that they don't if you're not. There's some games like Battlestar Galactica that most of the people I played with that hadn't seen Battlestar Galactica still really like the game. So there is that, but I think that's kind of the exception. I think most of the time, if you enjoy an IP, you're just, I don't know, maybe programmed to like a game a little bit better on that thematic level. So Escape the Dark, it was a fun experience. I enjoyed it, but I'm probably going to end up giving this one away. I just didn't love it. Uh, it didn't scratch any itch that I needed to be scratched, I guess is what I'm saying here. On the Cody scale, I'm going to give The Last of Us Escape the Dark a 6. So it's better than average, but again, it's nothing I'm in a major hurry to play again. Well, thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we'd ask you to please leave a comment here on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on Twitter. Please like us on social media. We really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe to us here on YouTube if you haven't done so already. We'd also ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to please give a thumb to this video on Board Game Geek. That helps us out a lot. And if you really like the content here, I'd ask you to check out my other channel. That's Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about military history, books on history, fun things like that. I even share some of my lectures on that channel. And also, too, if you really do enjoy this channel, I would humbly ask you to click on the Super Thanks button and leave a tip. You know, my grandfather is 90 years old and he still doesn't need glasses. He drinks right out of the bottle.